So I worked in retouching. So I worked in retouching. So most advertising is predicated on women, either using women to sell something or selling to women. And thinking about how history is written and how women are portrayed as archetypes, either the Madonna or kind of thing. And how history is recorded and how that recording is kind of engineered. What's left out is as important as what's there. So I took an airbrush with watercolor and gouache, and I took out the figure. When you take her out, the table becomes the subject. So the idea was that I'd somehow break into a warehouse storing H.W. Jansen's History of Art and tip my own images into this, you know. It would be as if the women went on strike. They just left. That they'd had enough. You know, if you were the Madonna or the whore or the muse or the nun or whatever, they're all going off someplace.
Cheyenne have a saying that a nation is not conquered until the hearts of its women are on the ground.
So this is a piece by Erastus Dow Palmer called Indian Girl or Dawn of Christianity. So she's an American subject making a transition to American, let's say. There's the fallen feathers in her left hand and the cross in her right. This was a moment that Anglos were trying to get Native Americans to convert to Christianity. So that's a theme represented in these works.
The fact that Native women are raped and victims of sexual abuse and domestic violence at 2.5 times more likely than the national average, that's what this makes me think of. The time goes from, what made that okay? What made that okay? Certainly conquest, certainly taking over, certainly like they can take your land, they can take your stories, they can take your body, they can take anything they want.
And it drives me nuts now because everyone's like, ooh, look, she's looking at her cell phone. Because, you know, the way she's holding it, it looks like she's looking at her cell phone. And I say, no, this is much more serious than that.
One reason the abuse has continued on, specifically on reservations, is that until about 2 weeks ago, there was no jurisdiction. So if someone who is non-tribal came onto tribal lands, they could rape a woman and stick around. They could go to the bar, go, stay, leave. The tribal police literally couldn't do anything. And so this passed, but Alaska is excluded. So it is still the case in a village in Alaska that there would be no jurisdiction currently at this moment. That is right now, you know?
And here in The White Captive, which came as a pendant, a sort of pendant, the artist said, whereas Indian Girl or Dawn of Christianity was looking at the impact of Christianity on the savage, this is looking at the impact of the savage on Christianity. So what's going on here?
I mean, you know, as much as this country has conquered and colonized our Native women, they've done it to our non-Native women too. And so you certainly see that here. I mean, you know, it's like she's apparently a captive, but she's striking a sexy pose.
As he described it, her nightgown's been ripped from her body. She's been taken from her home in the middle of the night.
You know, it's that idea which is, we live in a rape culture. You know, it's this idea that women want to be raped, that we want to be violated, and that's what you should do to them. So it's definitely evoking that thought.
This was shown at exhibition in 1859, and there was a promotional brochure where there was a sort of a little bit of a written defense by a minister saying, don't worry, she's got her faith. But, you know, Even though her body is turned away, her face is still trained on her captors. And I don't know, there's a lot of emotion in that face. It's hard to read. Is she defiant? I mean, I see defiance. I see fear. I see repulsion, but I don't know. This is a piece the viewer can finish the story.
It's kind of weird to see her right in front of two rainbows. I'm like, just rainbows to me have always entered my life at very powerful moments, which is interesting too because Christianity has a story of the rainbow and like God's promise. And in Native cultures, rainbows are also really significant. Yeah, so it's interesting though to think about what this piece is dealing with. And the last piece too is like the convergence of two different, well, really many different religions and cultures because different tribes have different religious practices. But that, like, to both, a symbol like the rainbow is so powerful to both, you know?
It's a little known fact that in New York City, there was one moving day where everyone moved. From colonial times to World War I, all the leases for the renters expired on the same day, May 1st at 9 a.m.
So much chaos orbiting around you. Bedlam reached its fingers out and found you. Swallowed by silence that streams through the noise, screaming so loud no one can hear your voice. There's a sweetness in perfect loneliness. No one cares if you're alive or dead, center in your very own universe. No one's planet will knock you off your course. Your own globe, globe, globe. You're alone. Your own globe, globe, globe. The crowded solo. Pushing up against around you, can't hear all the whispers that have bound you. Tight, tight in your grip on the one that you knew. Brush off the decoy, uncover the truth. There's a sweetness in perfect loneliness. No one cares if you're alive or dead, center in your very own universe. No one's planet will knock you off your course. Your own globe, globe, globe. You're alone. You're on globe, globe, globe. The crowded solo. You're globe, globe, globe. You're alone. You're globe, globe, globe. The crowded solo. You're alone. crowded soul.